Hey guys, my name is Reese, and in this video, we're going to be looking at how to set up automated rules for your Facebook ad account. We're going to be looking at the basics of rule setup, the settings involved in setting up an automated rule, leading indicators that you can use in your account to help you better set your automated rules, and also what to do when an automated rule pauses one of your ads. In this case, we're starting off, we're just in a demo account that I've set up for this video. There's nothing, no campaign data in here, but we can still look at the basics of setting up a rule. So to get started, we'll go to create a new rule. And in this case, we're setting up a rule to pause ads. And so if you saw my video on setting up automated rules in Google Ads, I have a similar view or perspective when it comes to automated rules for Facebook. Just like I think that you should have an automated rule to pause keywords that spin your average order value without converting, I also am a huge fan of using automated rules to pause ads that don't convert. And so again, I find that to be the most applicable for e-commerce businesses who want to be mindful of their cash flow. Every type of business is unique and has different goals, but this is kind of what we're speaking to specifically here. We're looking at all active ads. We want our rule to turn off ads. Personally, I never really was a fan of the notification feature for rules. All the notifications just go to an old Yahoo address associated with my Facebook profile, so it doesn't really do anything for me. And in this case, let's set up a rule similar to the one that we set up for Google. So we're going to say, in this case, spend is greater than 75, and we're assuming that $75 is our average order value. And then we're going to say purchases are smaller than 1. And then the next thing that we're going to do is set the time range of the look back window that Facebook is going to look at when using these two criteria. And so in most cases, I do like to include the same day when setting rules. I think that this is especially the case if you have a larger budget set for your campaign and you're using lowest cost bidding. So in this case, we're going to say last 30 days, including today. If you're spending more, then you can always use last 7 days. That works too. The next thing here is going to be attribution window. In most cases, I use the account default. There might be cases where you may want to use a custom attribution window, but in this case, we'll stick with the default. I find that works most of the time. In this case too, the attribution window is just going to be the time frame that Facebook is looking at within which someone who saw or clicked your ad makes a purchase from you, or other standard events you may be tracking. The next thing here, schedule. This basically just says whether you want your rule to run continuously, which is about every 30 minutes, daily, or on a custom schedule. And so for a while, because I'd spent more time advertising on Google than Facebook, I looked at these scheduling options and spent most of my time trying to pick daily or custom, and I had issues running those in the past, so I have found that continuously tends to work best for me. And then the last part here is to name your rule, and we didn't really talk about naming conventions in my video on Google automated rules, but in this case, I like names for my rules to be as straightforward as possible, because when I see that a rule has run, I know exactly what's happened. So in this case, we'll say that the spend is 75 and purchases less than 1. So simple, don't have to do too much to make a decision, nothing fancy. One more thing that I want to talk about here, leading indicators that you can use to create better automated rules. I think this is especially the case when we're using time ranges that include the same day, because if you understand that someone typically takes a couple days or maybe even a week between the time they click on your ad and the time they actually convert, then you may want to use leading indicators to account for that. So specifically what I mean are metrics like unique checkouts and unique add to carts. In those cases, you may find that someone adds something to cart or checks out before making that purchase. And so if we want to include those in our rule, which I do highly recommend, then we can do that here. So I'll add another criteria to our rule, and let's just say that we want to use is greater than 35, because that's what we usually see when people make a purchase. Then if we see that it has all those criteria, then we know that we want our ad to be paused because it's not going to meet our goals. In this case, you can also see here ad lifetime, impressions, condition. I think that Whether you choose to include that is up to you. Facebook says they recommend at least 8,000 impressions. And in this case, if you're very concerned about Facebook's machine learning dialing in the ad performance, then you can include that. On the other hand, if you're much more concerned about the cash flow aspect of it, then you may want to leave that part out just to make sure that your rules are being enforced strictly by the cash criteria that you have defined here. One more piece that I'll say about this: if you want to pause an ad that is not meeting your purchase or checkout goals, I would say in addition to making sure that your ad isn't just getting a few checkouts before spending your average order value above the target you have for them, is also to create a separate rule here that includes ads that have spent your average order value, have no purchases, and also have no checkouts. So in this case, we would just create a separate rule here for checkouts initiated, and we would say that number is also smaller than 1. So in this case, I just created those within the same interface for the sake of simplicity, but you would want to have those two as two separate rules. The last thing that I want to talk about here is what to do when one of your automated rules pauses an ad. In this case, I want to show something here that talks a little bit about Facebook's algorithm and how it's unique compared to Google's, especially if you're more familiar with Google. I've heard a lot of conversations about people looking for unique audience hacks and trying to find other ways to game Facebook's algorithms. But one thing I want to point out here is that trying to hack an audience or anything like that is ultimately not going to be a great long-term strategy, because targeting really only accounts for 9% of your account's performance. On the other hand, creative accounts for about 47% of it. So seeing how much of a difference there, and also seeing how much, or that it accounts for almost, well, really more than any other factor, creative is hugely important. And that's why I think it's important to create rules around your ad creative. In this case, if you see that your ad is underperforming, one of the next best things that you can do is try to figure out why and then create a new ad from there. Keep in mind that when you're running automated rules, if your ad gets paused, then think about how you can improve your creative. And to help prioritize that process, think about the most obvious elements first. In most cases, the most obvious element is going to be your visual. So that could be the photo or image or animation that you're using. If that does not catch anyone's attention, Facebook charges based on impressions and not clicks. So if people are just scrolling past your ad, that still counts as an impression. Facebook is going to charge you for that, and it's going to be less profitable for you to run that ad. Think about how you can make your visual more attention grabbing. From there, think about how you can best present your offer, because people really aren't on Facebook or Instagram to get your ads. They're on there to see what their friends and family are up to, and also to potentially discover an interesting product. And that's not really a big reason, but if you're going to advertise on Facebook, then you have to be interesting enough to get someone's attention when they have so many more interesting things to be looking at. Keep those things in mind. Ask yourself how you can improve your creative, and also keep in mind too that the vast majority of people coming from Facebook are going to be, and on Instagram too, are going to be on mobile. So if you're sending them to a page that loads slowly, then you want to make sure that it's going to be an easy experience for people on mobile. You want to make sure that it loads quickly. You also want to make sure that your design elements fit a mobile screen. If you're looking at and you're testing your pages on a desktop, but you have no idea what the mobile experience looks like, then there could be things there that are getting in people's way. And again, the last part, which I mentioned in the video on Google Ads automated rules, is to make sure that you're using express checkout options, because again, if you're on a platform like Shopify, they can be pretty easy to set up, and you want to make sure that if someone's on mobile, they have that option, because it's just one of the easiest ways to help someone convert on a mobile device. This is just a quick video on how to set up Facebook ads automated rules. Hope you guys like it. If you want to see more videos like these, please like and subscribe, and thanks so much for watching.